Hello and welcome to our Girls Night In event. We are so excited that you could join us for this special event. My name is Tammy Coker and I'm the Executive Director for New Life Family Services. And we're just so grateful you could join with us. New Life has been around since 1973, providing help and hope to those facing an unplanned pregnancy. And we do that through three primary service areas. One is our New Life Adoptions Program. So we are a full-service licensed adoption agency serving both birth families and adoptive families all the way through the process. Second is our First Care Pregnancy Centers. Those are our storefront locations. We have 3 in the Twin Cities and 1 in Rochester, with a 5th location soon coming to the Phillips community of Minneapolis. That's where we provide our hands-on support for those facing an unplanned pregnancy. So pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, licensed social workers that do decision-making counseling, and support for families through our Every Family program. We also provide STD testing and treatment, and basically anything that people need in the midst of an unplanned pregnancy. And then our third program is our Conquerors abortion recovery program for those who are hurting from a past abortion. We have both one-on-one mentoring as well as group sessions. And thanks to COVID, we now have virtual groups as well. So feel free to connect with us on our website for any of the services that we provide. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping items for you. I know that some of you are watching individually and some of you are together with a group of other women. You each should have in your bag some information on ways that you can connect with New Life. So I want you to take out the information anytime during this event. You can text 22999 with any of the following keywords for more information on how you can connect with us. So while each of us come to this event with a unique set of circumstances and challenges, one thing I know, we all have challenges during this time, but we also come with a singular purpose, which is to find hope in the midst of chaos. And so my prayer for you tonight is that God will bless you and He will give you hope for your unique circumstances and help encourage you to bring that hope to other people. So let's kick it off with our first speaker, Katherine Wolfe, as she shares about how she found hope in the midst of suffering.
Hi friends! Hi there, sweet supporters of New Life Family Services. My name is Katherine Wolfe and I'm so glad to be here with you. Even though I would love to be in person, I am treasured that I get to still be here with you. I'm seated in my fancy back chair because I was in back pain, drinking my coffee, which I'm always drinking, and still sharing with you, although right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Just to tell you a little bit about me to get us started, I have had a really rough 12 years of life. I was a perfectly healthy 26-year-old new mom, and out of absolutely nowhere with no warning, I suffered a massive brainstem stroke and nearly died, and subsequently became severely disabled, as I largely remain today. And what happened was I had an arterial venous malformation called an AVM rupture in my brain. And when it ruptured, it caused the massive stroke. And the AVM was something that I was born with. It formed, I believe, when I was fearfully and wonderfully made in my mother's womb. And that little malformation would grow and grow and grow until I was 26 years old. And then basically it would explode in my brain and cause the massive stroke. Now here's where it gets really cool. When I had the stroke, I became severely disabled, not because I had the stroke. You'd think that, because I'm a stroke survivor. However, all of my disabilities are because the wise and careful surgeon chose to operate on me and knew and made the decision to sacrifice various parts of my body so that I could live. Now, I feel like that's such an incredibly important concept for all of us, that in our own lives. Where is their wounding happening so that healing can come? It's very powerful that perhaps in our deep woundings, there can be healing. There's a powerful verse in Job that says, he wounds and he heals. And I can think of nothing more powerful. So I now live an entirely disabled life. I'm a person with disabilities, I like to say, person first language. I have marked down everything messed up, starting with my face on the right side, doesn't move. I'm deaf in one ear, I'm nearly blind in one eye. I have a hand that doesn't work well, no fine motor coordination. I can't walk on my own, I'm in a wheelchair. I can't drive a car, and on and on and on. After almost exactly a year being fed through a tube in my stomach, I now can eat food, but it's very different than it was. I am very compromised in those realms, and it takes a lot of techniques for me to be able to eat food again. And it's really a metaphor for life now. Nothing is like it was when I was a carefree 25-year-old before everything changed. And yet, I'm doing amazing. I am living the most wonderful story. And what that has so much to do with is how I see it. You know, I could be the victim. Who would blame me for wanting to be the victim in my story? Feeling very, very sorry for myself and very bitter about what's happened to me. And perhaps that's you too. We can all, because of what happens to us in life, feel very, very angry, bitter, the victim. However, I actually think the total opposite is true. That because of Jesus Christ, I am not the victim of my story. I choose to see it and believe it and think it and remember it. That I am the overcomer of my story. It says in Romans that I am more than a conqueror through him who loved us, and that is the truth. I have so much potential, even after what looked like the end, because honestly, suffering is never the end of the story, is it? Suffering is simply a new beginning of the story. So I've been through a lot of hard stuff for sure, but I've had some wonderful stuff too. I've had 11 surgeries since the stroke and endless really difficult procedures, and many of my surgeries are fairly radical, requiring hospital stays and just some really tough stuff. But I've also had some really awesome stuff. I've gone on to have a second baby named John, who is running around somewhere and doing wonderful. He is a crazy, in the best way, and active little 5-year-old boy, and he is just a gift from God. We actually named him after my neurosurgeon, Nestor Gonzalez, who saved my life. His name is John Nestor, and we did not know this at the time, but the name Nestor means homecoming and seeker of miracles in Hebrew. You can't make this stuff up. So I've got 2 amazing kids, and not perfect, but amazing. And my husband and I started an incredible ministry called Hope Heals, and we have a camp that you should all come volunteer at in the summer for families with disabilities, or someone is dealing with a disability. And we've written 2 books, Hope Heals and Suffer Strong. And what I really want to share with you guys today is something I wrote about in Suffer Strong, and what I believe is the primary message of my life post-stroke, and actually the primary treasure. It says in Isaiah 45 verse 3 that he gives hidden treasure in the darkness, riches stored in secret places, so that we may know him differently and live differently. And I feel like that treasure that I've got from the deep darkness I've been in is something I get to share with you today. It's really wonderful. That treasure that's bubbled up inside of me is really simply this. I'll just go ahead and lay it out there. Life is not just good or just hard. Life is both. It's like one big word, good, hard. One word. Because life is bittersweet. There are good and there are hard things in all things. You know, like that somehow is something that I missed in my walk with the Lord until recently. Maybe you too. I think we're all kind of averse to engaging hard things at all. We only want the good things. However, I'm going to read it. It says in Colossians 3, 1 and 2 in the Message translation, and I love this. So if you're serious about living this new resurrection life with Christ, act like it. Pursue the things over which Christ presides. Don't shuffle along, eyes to the ground, absorbed with things right in front of you. Look up and be alert to what God, Look up and be alert to what is going on around Christ. That's where the action is. See things from his perspective. And excuse me, I don't read well, I don't see well. I have terrible double vision after the stroke. I'm nearly blind, but I see enough to see a screen and a screen and the phone and a phone, and it's crazy. But I pray the medium is the message. Good things and hard things are one thing. And just like that passage was saying, I love the Message translation of that passage because I love the thought of like, look up. Stop being so obsessed with what's right in front of you and look up to what God is doing. Wake up. So the question is, why are we looking straight down? Why are we keeping our eyes to the ground, consumed with what's right in front of us? I have a theory. I think we're just trying to protect ourselves from everything bad happening in this world. I think we're just trying to be the good soldiers and power on. And I think we're like, I feel guilty. I made bad choices. I feel shame. I just need eyes off me, and I can't possibly live in the freedom of looking up and living as a conqueror, more than a conqueror, as an overcomer. I'm really the victim, and I got to go inward, and I got to protect. And I think we can't imagine looking up. Here's my thought on why. Why? Because we do not believe our lives are good. We do not believe our pain can be used for good. And we do not ultimately believe and trust that God is good. And I think that's because we do not know what good actually means. So, what does good mean? Isn't good things the things, or isn't what is good what feels good? You know, like good things mean I feel happy and they're going really well and the good stuff is feeling awesome all the time. And like, if you believe the Bible, there is a passage, Psalm 84:11, where the psalmist writes that no good thing has he withheld. How could God withhold no good thing when we see people every day and know through our 24-hour news cycle enough to know life is not good for everybody. Things are really bad everywhere. There's suffering, nonstop tragedies happen. Now, I met a dear friend and Minnesotan, is that how you say that? Minnesotan, from St. Paul, Minnesota, the incredible musical, phenomenal artist Sarah Groves, who you no doubt know. If you don't, Sarah Groves, check her out. She and I were speaking at a conference together years ago, 2012, I think. And she sang this beautiful song called Open My Hands. And in that song, she writes the opening lyrics, I believe in a blessing I don't understand. I've seen rain fall on the wicked and the just. Rain is no measure of his faithfulness. He withholds no good thing from us. And I was so struck because I've believed that without really having language to put around that. So I rushed up to her after she played that song and just said, how did you get there? Tell me how you came to understand that. And she pointed me to a theologian from the 1600s named Sir Richard Baker. And, okay, 1600s, you're burying half your children at home. Half your children die under age 10 type deal. I mean, whoa, he's writing the following from that vantage point. We can know for certain that God will never withhold the truly good things, because the truly good things are not things at all. The truly good things of God are peace of conscience, joy in the Holy Spirit, the fruition of his presence in this life, and the assurance of his face in the next. I'll say it again. You need to write that down and put it on your fridge or put it on your mirror at home. He writes the truly best things of God, the truly good stuff, is peace of conscience, joy in the Holy Spirit, the fruition of his presence in this life, and the assurance of his face in the next. Of these things we can know God will never withhold. Mic drop. If I had a mic, I'd drop it, because that's gold. The stuff we truly need, that is truly good, is inside of us, and that can never, ever be taken away. I took a bad fall a couple years ago. I'd already broken my right leg, and now, several years after that, I thought I'd broken my left. It was a terrible fall. And as I lay on the ground and Jay's rushing in, my sons are rushing in screaming, I had this bizarre wash over me, and it was so weird. I have no way to describe it, but I'll try. Basically, I had very deep thought of this, and I didn't know this yet, but I knew God has given me everything that I need right here, right now, to get through this. He's equipped me with what I need to get through this. And the good stuff has not gone anywhere. And that is the key, I think, for all of us. Even in our nightmares, the good things of God are with us and have not left us at all. So this is like really good in theory. Like, oh yeah, I'm in. The good things are God's things, yes. But the reality is, since the good things don't always feel very good, what do we have to do? Well, I think we have to get bossy with our soul. I think we have to tell our soul, I'm in charge, not you, soul. So I'm in charge, not you, soul. And this is what we're doing. We're going with God, back on up. I love the truth of Psalm 42:5, where we see the psalmist say, why are you downcast, O my soul? Why are you in turmoil within me? And then the change. Hope in God. God bossy. For I will again praise him, my rock and my salvation. So we see the psalmist talk to the soul, get the soul on board and say, hey, this is what we are doing. And we get to do that every day. And it's not always easy. And you know what we have to do? We have to be able to narrate that to our children. This next generation needs to know and not become totally disillusioned when suffering comes. They need to know that life is good and hard. We are desperately trying to teach our little boys that God made them to do the hard things in the good story he's writing in their lives. I know. I'll take a minute for you to jot that one down. James and John Wolfe are fill in the blank with a little one in your life. God made you to do the hard thing in the good story he's writing in your life. Because that's really saying two things. One, there are hard things in life, and God's equipped you for them. God has instilled, I love that 2 Peter 1:3, that his divine power has given us everything that we need for life and godliness by him who called us according to his own glory and goodness. What a beautiful thought that it's all in you. You've got everything you need. God has equipped you. And ultimately what that statement says is, and the story God is writing in your life is a good story. Life is hard, but I'm equipped for it. But ultimately, I can trust that the story of my whole life is going to be a good story. Because that's the only kind of story God can write. God writes beautiful stories. Now, there are hard chapters. Hard chapters and seasons. But do you know what's so beautiful about seasons? They change. They're not always one. No. We come in and out of different things. 1 Peter 5:10 says, after you've suffered a little while, the God of all grace who called you to eternal glory through Christ will himself strengthen, establish, perfect, and something else you. 1 Peter 5:10, after you've suffered a little while. So God is seeing an ark. Our lives are this ark, and we get to trust him in it. I love instilling in my little boys that even right here today in America in 2020, which, side note, due to COVID-19 and this global pandemic we are having, there's a little more awareness that all is not well in the world. Don't you think? Maybe somehow the presence of crazy town coming to town means that we're all a bit more aware, even in a Western world, even in an incredibly high income country like the United States, that life is hard. And that is potentially an extremely valuable lesson for us all to learn as kids. Because we grow up to be adults and cannot believe the hard things have happened to us. And of course they did. Of course they are. Of course they do. So I'm not saying this global pandemic is a good thing. No, no, no. But there is a blessing in every storm in our lives. You know, I am very disabled. I'm sure you noticed. And I believe so deeply that that is not unique to me only. We are, in fact, all disabled. Some of us have physical wheelchairs like I do, and some of us, all of us really, have invisible wheelchairs. Wheelchairs inside of us that are making it hard to flourish in our lives and stories. All different kinds, memories that haunt us, shame and guilt over where we've been and what we've done. Lots of just toxic, sad situations and stories. But the reality is, whatever our disabilities are, we can choose within them to see them as limiting, confining elements of our lives, or as avenues to our freedom, which is really crazy, but come with me. For instance, my physical wheelchair, okay? So people say confined to a wheelchair. She's confined to a wheelchair. Well, no, I'm not. I'm not confined by my wheelchair. I'm freed by my wheelchair. I'm able to do my life because of the chair. I can go where I want to go. I can be where I want to be because of the supposed limiting factor of my life. No, no, no. It's a tool to freedom. So I would challenge us all today in closing to view our lives that way. Whatever our disabilities, whatever our story of suffering, God is doing something new in our stories. They are new beginnings throughout our pain. And to God is saying, whatever the limits on our lives, we can creatively use them and find avenues to our own freedom through the power of Jesus. God bless you all. I'm praying for this wonderful event. All my love to you Minnesotians or Minnesotans or however you say it. God bless you all at New Life Family Services. Mwah.
Wow, thank you, Katherine, for that amazing, encouraging story of hope through really difficult circumstances. And now I'm really excited to introduce you to these three special ladies with me. We have Kendra, who placed her daughter for adoption through New Life, her mother, Christina, and the adoptive mother that she chose, Rachel. So welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here. So Kendra, let's start with you. Tell us, what were the circumstances in your life when you found out that you were pregnant, and then how did you find New Life?
All right, so I was 19 when I found out that I was pregnant. I was in a pretty toxic relationship with my ex-boyfriend, and I had kind of, distanced myself from my family a bit, and I just wasn't in a very good place overall. And I found out that I was pregnant, and I went and I told my mom, and she basically just said, it's all gonna be okay, we'll just pray about it, it's gonna be fine, we'll figure it out. And we went to an emergency pregnancy center type of thing, and they referred us to New Life, and yeah, does that answer?
Yeah. And how about you, Christina? Tell me what that was like to get that call from your daughter, finding out she's pregnant and scared and not sure what to do.
Yeah, she actually called me and asked me to come and pick her up. We're going to go out for lunch, and before she even got in the car, she was already crying and she was upset, and I knew there was something wrong. I didn't know what it was at the time. But I got out of the car, gave her a hug, told her whatever it was okay, and she thought that I was going to be so mad at her or so disappointed in her. And she just said, "Mom, I'm pregnant." And, you know, in that moment, my heart just kind of sank, and I was nervous for her, but I kind of went into like mama bear mode and like protective of her and her emotions, and kind of just jumped into action.
Tell me, Kendra, go back to kind of what was that first visit at New Life like for you?
So I went to New Life, honestly, very scared, very anxious about my first visit, and I left feeling just very, like, I don't know, a lot safer about everything. I was assigned a social worker, Melanie, and she was so wonderful. She kind of walked me through everything and laid out some options, and it just made me feel a lot better about the whole situation.
Wow. Now, as you kind of considered adoption and parenting, I'm assuming you considered both of those, what kind of was it that was the turning point for you with solidifying your decision towards adoption?
Yeah, so I hadn't really considered adoption all that much before I went to New Life, honestly, because I didn't realize that there was such a thing as open adoption. And I just knew that it would be so heavy on my heart to have a child and not be able to have any communication or contact with them throughout their life.
Sure.
And I just was thinking, like, what's the best possible scenario for this baby? What's the best possible life that I can give them? And that was my main concern during that time. So just finding out that I was able to have a situation where Olivia, my daughter, would be able to have two stable parents that were able to provide for her fully, love her fully, be there full time. And that was not something I could give her at that time. I was 19, I would be a single mother, I was living with my parents. So that was kind of what solidified it for me, just knowing that that would be such a great life for her, and just knowing that that was the best situation.
Yeah. So Rachel, tell me kind of what was happening with you and your husband at the time. Like, what was going on? I know you had adopted previously, so what was this waiting time like for you?
Well, it was, to be honest, pretty hard. It was a 4-year wait, which we just didn't anticipate. And, you know, I knew that it was all in God's hands, but it was really, really hard to wait. And some days we wondered, is this what God has planned for us? Are we meant to be a one-child home? Or, you know, do we keep waiting? Time and time again, I don't know how many times, God would put the verse Ephesians 3:20 at the front of our minds. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or could even imagine. Whether it was in a card from a friend or on Instagram or in a sermon, it was just constant. And I started to say, okay, God, I see that you're trying to get my attention.
So now once you've decided on adoption, tell me what it was like the first time that you met Rachel and John.
Yeah, so I was very, very excited to meet them, but I was also incredibly nervous because there are just so many things that could have gone wrong, or that could, you know, it's a big decision. But immediately when I met them, I just felt God's presence, and I knew, like, these are going to be her parents. This is what was meant to be. This is what God's plan is. And I still proceeded with caution because I wanted to, you know, be very sure. But we kept in contact. We kept having dinners and that kind of stuff. And every meeting that I had with them just further solidified that these people were meant to be my daughter's parents.
Tell me what's life like now for all of you.
Luckily, John and Rachel are incredible and amazing, and I got very, very lucky that they're professional photographers, and they send lots of pictures, lots of videos. And I was scared that I wouldn't be able to have those first experiences with her, but I get to see her even more than I thought I'd ever be able to. I get to hear all about what's going on with her, what's going on with her family. I know that she's safe and being cared for, and I can see how loving and wonderful her parents are. And I am just so grateful because I don't think there's any way that this could have possibly turned out better, and I could have never imagined it being as good as it is.
For us, open adoption meant that we were asking something really big of our family that we were choosing. We knew what our vision was for this, and we knew that it was going to take someone really special to be able to get that, what we wanted, which was to be a part of Olivia's life for her whole life and to not have to miss out on, those first things and for the first day of school and all those kinds of things. So we asked big, and when I was praying about it, God told me to ask big. So I didn't hold back, and I didn't hold back what I was asking Kendra to ask for, and God has given immeasurably more than what we could ever have asked or imagined.
Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest, and I'm going to say that there was a point where I would not have believed you if you would have told me that I would become an advocate for open adoption. At the very beginning of our journey, we read about open adoption, and it was terrifying to think of, attaching your life to another family's life forever without a name, without a face to put to it is really scary.
Yeah.
And we didn't really understand it at first either, but the more education we received, the more research we did, the more we understood how vital and how important it is. And so over time we decided, this is something we want, but still scary when you don't know what that's gonna look like. And I don't remember exactly when it was, but I remember saying to my husband, John, I can imagine doing this with them. And it's not scary. And now here we are, and now I'm a huge advocate for open adoption.
So thinking back to your journey where the wait was long and it was painful and you were unsure, how did you find hope in the midst of that? And how would you share that with other people?
I would say that the journey was full of a lot of ups and downs. It's interesting. I feel that the times in my life where I've been the lowest, the most emotional, or I've been having the most difficult time have been the times where I've been the closest to the Lord out of necessity. But I really found so much hope in my relationship with Christ and in my family and friends. And every time God would speak to me, whether it was that Ephesians 3:20 or through a song, I just felt like, okay, I have hope because I know that God is in control and I'm trusting him with all of it. And as difficult as that was at times, it also gave us hope.
So Kendra, why don't you share with us your hope for Olivia?
My hope for Olivia is that she knows how loved she is. I actually, I wrote her letters all while I was pregnant about how I was feeling, how much I loved her, because I just wanted her to know that I always loved her that much and that I was placing her because I loved her and not because I didn't.
Yeah.
So I hope that she's able to feel that love and know that her entire life, and that she's able to find her passion. She's able to surround herself with people that love her and accept her no matter what, and that she has a strong relationship with Christ. And I also hope that our families will be family with each other for the rest of our lives.
Wow, thank you, Kendra, Christina, and Rachel, for that amazing story of hope. We are so blessed to be a part of your adoption story. One of our core values from the very beginning has been restoring hope. That's what New Life does every day, because as clients walk through our doors, they are feeling hopelessness. They are in really difficult circumstances with financial instability, sometimes homelessness. And imagine how difficult that is for a client who comes in, finds out she's pregnant, and she is already struggling to make ends meet with the children that she has. And that's where New Life comes in, is we are able to come around with not just the emotional and spiritual support, which is so important, but also the tangible, practical support, coming alongside her and walking with her through this journey through a variety of services, from our pregnancy tests, through our social workers meeting with her, the life-saving ultrasounds, and the ongoing parenting support. That's what New Life is all about. As women of faith, you have the opportunity to support other women in your life, and I know some of you are doing that right now with your friends gathered around you. You can laugh together, encourage each other, pray together, and even struggle through the hard times. And today, I want to invite you to expand your influence to the women that New Life supports, because many of the women that we serve, they don't have that circle of friends around them, supporting them, encouraging them, and giving them the confidence to make life-affirming choices. So we want to invite you to connect with us. You can do that through a variety of ways. You can pray with us. You can get text or email prayer requests to pray very specific, tangible prayers for our clients. We need volunteers in all of our centers. You can volunteer individually, or you can get a group together and come to a project for New Life. And the third way that you can support us is financially. You can give a financial gift today, because everything that we do is supported by individuals and churches just like you, people who are passionate about supporting other women. And so we want to invite you to do that. And just to give you a glimpse of what that looks like and what kind of an impact you can have, a $25 gift will provide diapers and wipes and support for a family. $50 will provide a pregnancy test and a counseling session with one of our social workers, and $120 will provide a life-saving ultrasound. And I can't tell you how important that service is right now in the midst of COVID. We are seeing so many women who maybe previously were really solidly planning on parenting, and now they're considering abortion again because they're scared and they don't know what's going to happen with COVID. And so our services are more critical than ever. So if you would consider a one-time gift tonight, we would be so blessed by that and can continue serving our clients. We are also in need of monthly partners to come alongside us. That is what's getting us through COVID, is the sustainability of the donations from our monthly partners. And so for $550 or just $46 a month, that will support one woman throughout her entire pregnancy with every single service that we provide at New Life. Just $46 a month can make a life-changing difference. At this time, I would invite you to get your goodie bag and pull out your giving card. Fill out the information. You can mail this back with a check or credit card information in the envelope provided. You can also text New Life Donate to 22999, or you can find us on our website, newlifefamilyservices.org, and you can give a one-time or a monthly or both gift. And we have a special gift for anyone who signs up to be a monthly supporter through this event of $46 a month or more. We have a gift for you. You will automatically receive 2 tickets to next year's women's event with Annie F. Downs. And now we're going to take a 10-minute break so that you can fill out your giving cards, you can grab some snacks, you can use the restroom, whatever you need to do. And then we will see you back here in 10 minutes for an inspiring message from Jo Saxton. Well, welcome back, everyone. We hope that you had a great break and had time to share with each other or talk about Kendra's story or Katherine's story. And now I'm excited to introduce Jo Saxton, one of the most amazing, dynamic, and powerful speakers, as she's going to share how we can share our hope with other people as well. So we welcome Jo Saxton.
Hey everyone, I'm Jo Saxton, and it is such a privilege and a joy to join you for Girls' Night In. Now, I know this is not the way we would have expected things to be, the way we hoped things would be necessarily, but I'm so glad I get the opportunity to be with you and for us to share some time together in this way. I live in the Twin Cities. I have 2 teenage girls. You can pray for me anytime you want. They're fabulous. I have a husband who works in the Twin Cities too. I want to tell you what he does for a living, but real talk, I've kind of forgotten, and it's too late to ask now. We've been together for nearly 20 years, so we just go with it. We have a dog. We have a dog who I didn't ask for, but I have. He's ours. It's our life. You know how it is. Like you, hobbies. I don't know, what are hobbies these days? I'm not even going to pretend I've got hobbies. My hobbies are surviving 2020. That's what I'm doing. And that's how we're living right now. So, I've got a few thoughts I want to share with you. A few things I want to bring to you as we think about what it looks like to somehow have hope and lead others around us with hope and towards hope in the midst of chaos. But can we just talk first about 2020? I don't know whether at the end of 2019, I'm really into New Year's, so let me say this. I started the new year with hope and anticipation, the kind of hope which was fleeting, but the kind of hope which was like 2019, great, thanks, goodbye, next. 2020, clarity of vision, because, 2020 and all of these things. But I don't know, if like me, you ended up setting your vision board on fire. Not literally, but whether your planners you threw to the side, because nothing has been the way that we hoped, planned, or desired. 2020 was meant to be amazing. This was going to be the year that. 2020 was meant to be this wonderful new opportunity. Every year is a start again year. Every year is a this is going to be the year. Until it isn't. Because it's like 2020 turned up and said, hold my beer, hold my Cabernet, hold my LaCroix, hold whatever it is you like to hold, because I'm about to do something completely different. And for many of us, it's been tough and frightening and wearying. And now we live in this state of uncertainty. Some call it a new normal, but we're not quite sure what that normal looks like yet. I don't know that we've even landed there to say, this is how it used to be, this is how it is now, this is how I'll live. We just have uncertainty, unexpected pressures. We've been called up and given responsibilities that we never knew we'd have. We didn't know how much we loved teachers until this moment, for example. Some of us have been encased with worry and fear because either we ourselves or our loved ones are essential workers. Some of us are dealing with the reality of agony and loss because of the loss of loved ones. Some of us are dealing with the wrestles and the agonies of racial unrest and injustice and wondering, how do we make our way through from here? While some of us were woken up to new realities that they are horrified to see exist, others have seen that reality for a long time and are wondering if it's ever going to change. No, this is not the year that we wrote on our vision board. This is not the word for the year that we had, which would have been help or stop or 2021. Let's do that instead. No, we're here now. And we're trying to work on how we work our way through. I have found myself in the Book of Psalms a lot in the last few months. Why? Because they scan the gamut, the range of human emotion, human condition, and somehow in it all they find God there. And so I want to share the words of a psalm with you right now, and maybe share a few thoughts from it and some input on how we can move and live and not just survive, but discover new things and maybe even thrive. And I know that feels like a lot to ask for. Maybe even ultimately, in the distance, thrive through challenging times. So, some words from Psalm 61. It's a psalm of David. Now, David was a king of Israel at this point as he writes these words. We don't know the circumstances he's in. There is lots of speculation about what circumstances these were. But even somebody who has everything at his feet doesn't have it all together. Let me read these words to you. Oh God, listen to my cry. Hear my prayer. From the ends of the earth, I cry to you for help when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the towering rock of safety, where for you are my safe refuge, a fortress where my enemies cannot reach me. Let me live forever in your sanctuary, safe beneath the shelter of your wings. For you have heard my vows, O God. You have given me an inheritance reserved for those who fear your name. Add many years to the life of the king. May his years span the generations. May he reign under God's protection forever. May your unfailing love and faithfulness watch over him. Then I will sing praises to your name forever as I fulfill my vows each day. Don't you love the arc of these words? Again, the range of emotion. I wonder if you and I have felt all these things, but I want to focus really on just a few words from, I'll refer to these throughout our time together, but I want to focus in, drill down deep into just a couple of phrases that he says. But let me just even start with this. Oh God, listen to my cry. He calls out, yes, he's got his life. Yes, he is the king, but he recognizes that there is someone bigger than him and bigger than his circumstances. He says, hear my prayer. In the Hebrew, to hear was not just to passively listen, but to hear and respond. Do something about this. That's where David is at in the beginning. From the ends of the earth, I'm at the end of myself. And my eyes scan the whole world. God, I cry to you for help. And I wonder, and I wasn't planning on sharing this, but I will now. I wonder how many of us, we are so good at taking care of everybody else, aren't we? Making sure the kids are okay, our spouses are okay, our work is okay, those in crisis are okay, those in need are okay, that we're often not that good at our prayers for ourselves. It almost seems a little selfish. It's like we're not that great at acknowledging our need. And so the first thing I want to remind us of in our Girls' Night In is that this is a time, an invitation for you to say, God, hear my cry. Listen to the prayers of my heart. This is what my kids are feeling. This is what my husband is feeling. This is what my extended family members are feeling. This is what my colleagues are feeling. This is what my co-workers are feeling. But God, this is what I'm feeling. This is where I am today. And I come to you today and I want every single one of you to know that God is waiting to hear your cry, to hear your prayer. Yes, from the ends of the earth. I cry to you for help when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the towering rock of safety, for you're my safe refuge. And here's where I want to camp out for a little while. If you'll stay with me, I cry to you for help when my heart is overwhelmed. Now, there are a number of words for heart in the Bible, but the word we see here, and the main word used, or that we translate as heart, the main word used in the Hebrew is lev, in the Greek it's cardia. And it's not just our feelings. It's not I cry to you when my feelings are overwhelmed, although it includes it. The word heart in the Bible is an expansive word. It means your thoughts, your feelings, yes, your emotions, your desires, your motives, your will, your intentions. And if this year has done anything, it has overwhelmed our feelings, our desires, our thoughts, our intentions. We're maxed out, we're stretched out, we're rolled up and churned out. Is it me, or have you been brought to the end of yourselves more times than you can count this year? I cry to you for help. The word there for help is about strength, not just assistance. It's a word which means to rescue and to be strong and to save. I come to you for intervention when my mind is at the end of itself, my emotions, my will, all that's going on, churning, as I'm filled with uncertainty. I ask you to bring clarity and to intervene. Anybody else known a heart that's overwhelmed recently? Maybe because your employment maybe you've been furloughed. Maybe you were the one who had to do the furloughing. Maybe your job no longer exists. your heart's overwhelmed. Maybe you're not finding the ideas or the motivation to keep going. Maybe your dreams have had to change. They've been forced to change in this time. I'm reminded of, I used to travel a lot for work. Remember when we used to travel? I used to travel a lot and speak, and whenever I'd be on a plane, they'd always, at the beginning, tell you about how you're meant to behave, which is a good thing. But they'd always talk about putting the in the event of emergency, putting the oxygen mask on first before you tended to those around you. And as we dwell in these words together, I want to give us some tips and some tools in that overwhelm, in that place where our heart is crying for help. I want to ask you, how's the oxygen mask that's helping you breathe and keep going and keep moving and gives you the energy and the power and the resource to serve others at this moment? I wonder if some of us have left our oxygen mask on the floor. Others are like, oh, wait, there's an oxygen mask? I wonder if for some of us, we are so used to taking care of everybody else, we haven't thought of what we need. And we are running and thinking and planning and strategizing on empty. But the reason why David in this psalm and through many other psalms reaches out to God is, yes, he's in charge, but he needs a helper who is stronger than him, who will intervene for him, who sees his circumstances and supports and lifts him. But he's honest in it, that he doesn't just say, hey, God, could you fix this for me? Could you just do this, this, and this? He comes and says, this is where I'm at, God. This is who I am, God. This is where my life is, God. Meet me here. And so some ways that I think for you and I, we need to attend to that overwhelmed heart and invite God into. Well, there's a list. There's a list. And let me just give you some thoughts on what we can do. If you will use your oxygen mask in this context, no, it's not traveling on a plane. It's not that sort of thing. But I want to ask you, how are you attending to how you're doing right now? I want to invite you, first of all, to make some investments. Are you investing in your spiritual well-being right now? And I'm not asking if you've got the latest Bible study. I'm not asking if you're doing your greatest prayers. I think one of the reasons why I'm so drawn to the Psalms right now is it's messy, friends. It's so messy. The emotions are messy. The prayers are messy. Are you bringing your messiest self to God right now? Or are you trying to show up like you've got it all together? Ironically, that honest mess is a greater and a stronger and a healthier investment right now than pretending and performing your faith. What does it look like to invest in your spiritual well-being? That's an act of putting on your oxygen mask, depending on the one who gives you breath, who gives you strength, who gives you help to carry on. Maybe it's in your prayer life. I remember when this COVID season, I mean, there's no nice phrase for it, is there? I remember when this COVID season began, I thought, well, I've got some more time. I'm not traveling. I'm going to invest this time in my prayer life with God. Those were the days when you thought you had time to write poems, that era. And God bless you if you did, by the way. No shade. And I remember thinking, I'm going to spend more time with God. I'm going to pray and it's going to be wonderful. And I remember the first week in an evening sitting down, I had some worship music on YouTube that I kind of awkwardly sang along to. And then as I prayed, I was overwhelmed and just broke down into tears. I broke down because so much of my work had been cancelled and it had cost our family so much financially. And I wept and I wept and I wept. And my prayer was this: God, do you mind if I get in the fetal position right now? Because that's all I had. I needed to take a breath. And yeah, maybe we're used to the fact that we're social distancing, and maybe, yeah, we're used to the fact that life isn't what it was, and maybe we're used to the fact, but I want to ask you, what does investing in your spiritual well-being look like right now? Is it looking at these Psalms and crying out to God for help? Is it lament, mourning what has been lost? Is it praise and thanksgiving because unexpectedly, and I don't want you to feel guilty about it, unexpectedly, for those of you who are in this place, this is a wonderful time right now. Is it celebration? I hope somebody's celebrating. Is that the investment right now? The key thing is that you explore what it looks like to invest in your spiritual well-being. I want to ask you if you're investing in your physical well-being. If your heart is overwhelmed, if your life, remember our heart isn't just our feelings, but our mind and all these things are overwhelmed, and you're busy taking care of everybody else, how's your physical well-being? Are you sleeping? Are you eating well? Are you remembering to stay hydrated? There's actually liquid in here too. Are you remembering to stay hydrated, the things that keep you resourcing? Because I know we're too busy to be tired, but when we're out, we're out. And so what does it look like to take care of yourself? Or is your body trying to tell you something? Is your sleeplessness trying to remind you that the anxiety is overwhelming your life? Is the lack of looking after yourself a reflection of pain that you need to acknowledge and give voice to? Don't forget to use your oxygen mask when your heart is overwhelmed. So we've looked at your spiritual well-being. We've looked at your physical well-being. We also need to invest in our emotional and mental well-being at this time. And again, maybe they're not phrases that we're comfortable with or that we find easy to talk about. But, this is a girls' night. We're just hanging with our sisterhood. And hopefully it's one of those moments, I know for me, on a girls' night in. A girls' night out was another thing. A girls' night out was a party. A girls' night in was a chance for some honest conversation. Was a chance for added vulnerability. A girls' night in was a chance to say some things that maybe weren't easy to say, but you've known has needed to be said. So let's talk about your emotional and mental well-being for just a little while. How's it going, sisters? How's it really going? Some of us in the midst of grief and loss are feeling the ebb and the flow of agony and pain. For others, we're actually a little concerned about how low we've been feeling right now, how anxious we've been, how anxiety is dictating our every thought, and we've prayed and we've sung and we've worshipped and we've done all the right things, and yet it's not there. And I want to encourage you to pay attention to what's happening in your heart and mind, in your emotional and mental well-being. We'd send everybody else to a counsellor, but we feel we've got to fix it ourselves. We'd send everybody else to a therapist or a doctor's appointment, and yet we're surviving. Don't forget to put your own oxygen mask on, friends. I want to encourage you and I want to invite you to pay attention. No one wants to go first, do they, and say, I think I'm wrestling with depression, or to acknowledge you've wrestled with that for many years. No one wants to go first and says, I'm scared of these panic attacks. And they've been triggered by 2020. No one wants to say that anxiety is is triggering physical responses within your very being. And yet this has been a tough time for us. So do you need some help right now? Do you need to talk to somebody, to be with somebody? We have been dealing with some challenging things. And I want to invite you to make sure that as you're putting your oxygen mask on and taking care of yourself, as you're wading your way through the chaos that is this year and the uncertainty of this year, that you are invested in yourself enough so that you can show up well for your life. And if that means thinking through sleep, and if that means thinking through lament and prayer, if that means thinking through your mental well-being, let's do it. Let's not try to be better. Let's do what we need to get the help we need to have the wholeness we need. And yes, that is an integral part of your faith. That's an integral part of your life. Sometimes it's the carrying of other people that we were fine, but the carrying of other people, I can't tell you how challenging it's been this summer, talking my children through issues of race. Obviously, we're a multi-ethnic family. And obviously they're teenagers, it's not their first experience of racism. They have been dealing with things in their school at a heightened level for the past few years. And it's been agonizing. It's been agonizing. But as this summer in Minneapolis, we've had to confront some things as we have watched, I couldn't watch a video. I couldn't do it. But the weight of my children's grief and sorrow and frustration and anger and the weight of my own grief, I have my own stories. I've lived 46 years on this earth. There are stories in the area of race. But it's made me have to think again of my mental and emotional well-being as I engage with these things again. That's my story. What's yours? What are the things that are confronting you, challenging you, that are keeping you up at night? that are affecting your soul? What are the losses? Some of us have lost loved ones. We are bereaved by the loss of a loved one, and that's the primary loss that's overwhelming our landscape. For others, it's a loss of work. For some, it's the loss of our independence and a way of life, and it's impacting us in a number of ways. When your heart is overwhelmed, don't forget to put on your oxygen mask and let God help you. Invite God to help you in practical ways on the next step forward. You see, this whole thing, this whole work that New Life Family Services do is that they come alongside someone else. The whole reason why we're here tonight or today or whenever you're watching this, the whole reason why we're doing this is because they come alongside people and help them, families, whatever that family looks like, put on an oxygen mask so they can breathe and be. But as we're busy taking care of everybody else and supporting what other people are doing, I want to ask you, is your mask on? So when we're taking care of other people, because we are in the midst of it, how do we help other people through a year of chaos, a time of chaos, a chapter of chaos? It's not by accident I asked you about yourself first. It wasn't, I'm not trying to be cute in that. It's just that as leaders, as influencers, as parents, as mothers, as fathers, as leaders and co-workers, we lead and we live and we love from the inside out. You cannot pour out from an empty cup. And so I wanted to start by taking some time to ask about your heart being overwhelmed, about where you go and how you are building refuge in your life. Actually, one investment I forgot to mention that I didn't put in my notes is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are the people you're in the room with, those of you who are in a room right now, who are you talking to, like eye to eye talking to? Remember, girls' night out party, girls' night in vulnerability. I want to urge you to go through these things together and talk about your oxygen masks. So those are the investments we need. But all of us have responsibilities at work, at home, with our extended families. What does it look like to help others in this time? So our masks are on. What are the practical ways we can help, we can serve, we can love on others? Sometimes we feel like as leaders, the best way to show up is to know what's going on. And we may not even call ourselves leaders. Some of us may call ourselves people with influence, whatever it is. But it's funny, we're all having to step up we've all been called up into kind of roles of influence now that we didn't expect, but because of the circumstances of this year, we all have to acknowledge we have a voice. We all have a role to play in the shaping of our worlds, whether that's the shaping of our home, the shaping of our community, the shaping of our cities, the shaping of our friendship groups. But to go back to the point, I do like to go on a little trail sometimes. To go back to the point. How can we help others through this moment? The pressure might be to feel like you've got answers, and we accidentally stumble over platitudes trying to make people feel better. But here's the thing I'm learning. Hold space for somebody else's grief. You may not feel you have words, but you're there. Sometimes we don't know what to say, so we don't say. And actually, we didn't need to say, but will we hold space for the losses that people are experiencing? Will we hold space for the grief other people are encountering? Maybe in our home, the kids who didn't have the senior year that they expected. The grandparents who didn't get to see the graduation that they'd longed and been so excited about. For those of us in our community who are grieving anniversary trips, wedding days, or things, we're not saying everything is terrible, we're just saying that we're sad that we missed that. Hold space for the grief of those around you. And by that I mean, let them. And it might come out as anger. Well, anger's a secondary emotion to do with pain or grief, isn't it? It might come out as weeping. But let's give each other permission to grieve. We lead each other by our very presence of coming alongside one another. I'm learning again and again also that grief isn't linear. I heard someone describe it perfectly yesterday when they said to me, grief isn't linear, it's like popcorn. It comes up, it's like popping popcorn. It comes up unexpectedly. And I just thought, one, you've revolutionized my idea of popcorn now, but it's so true. Just when you think it's there, it comes up in that direction. So one of the ways we help other people is when someone needs to grieve, we let them. Acknowledging that the losses don't come out in a neat tumbling form. But in the same way that David with confidence went to God for help, knowing that he could just be himself, may we be those kinds of people too. We celebrate people's grit. We help other people through their circumstances by identifying their resilience. The resilience to say, you know what, you've been through so much and you have lost these things, and I'm so proud of you that you're still here. And let me say that to you, Girls' Night In. Let me say that to you, that you have been through so much this year. You have struggled. You have held it together. You've wept in closets. You've wept in public. And I am proud of you that you are still here. That you are still showing up. You are still leading others. You are still caring for others. You are still holding on. I want you to have your oxygen mask, but I want you to know I celebrate your grit. How can we celebrate the resilience that we're seeing emerge in the people around us? Another way we show up is that we show people that they're not alone. That they are, that they're not abandoned. They've called COVID an accelerator. It's accelerated what's been true of our relationships. It's accelerated problems. It's magnified and revealed things that already existed. I want to encourage you that one of the ways we can show people they're important to us, one of the ways we can journey with people is in this moment. Let it reveal that they are not forgotten. That may be a phone call, that may be a text message, that may be, depending on what the social distance requirements are, showing up. We, in the early days, my kids would drop things off on their friends' driveways because we couldn't see each other, and they'd wave from a window to say, I'm still here. We're still here. We're still friends. How can you show up and show someone they're not alone? And then I'm drawn back to these words as how we also show up in this time, how we also guide people through the chaos. Yes, we hold space for grit. We show them they're not alone. We celebrate their grit, but we also acknowledge the grace of God. We pray for them. We celebrate them. We show them what God is doing in our lives in this time. We stand up for them. We advocate in our society for things that are just. Part of the reason why we're all gathered in our virtual ways is because there's something we believe in here that we feel is really important. I want to keep on inviting you to lead others through chaos and lead others through this year by showing up. You may not feel you're showing up with your best self. Just show up. Just show up for the broken, show up for those in loss. And we've done it with donations, we've done it by listening, but I want to ask you, once you've got that mask on, let's keep doing that. Funny thing, and I'll end with this, the phrase hope is a funny one. I think in the kind of Hollywood version of hope is this kind of wonderful desire and optimism. But hope in the Bible is about longing and watching and expecting, and it's acting, knowing that it's challenging, but knowing that God ultimately comes through. That's what we see in these words in Psalm 61, where David starts boldly praying, increase the days of my life, appoint your love and your faithfulness to protect me. Come through for me, God. Come through for me. But come through to me in practical ways in my life. And I want to invite you and encourage you. As part of our Girls' Night In, we start with checking we're okay. We check on our others and the people who are important to us. But let's keep our eyes open for the world in which we live and say, what does it look like to show up? And ask God, show us, God, how do we come through for our society in this time? Again, what I love about the work of New Life Family Services, I always say the title in broken up ways, is that it's continually helping men and women and children in the midst of chaotic circumstances, in the midst of injustice, in the midst of troubled times, in the midst of vulnerability, in the midst of agony. They keep showing up. They keep on showing up. It's tough, but we'll show up anyway. And I want to invite you with your life, with your love, with your time, to keep on prayerfully asking, God, how do I show up in these days? How do I use my voice? How do I own my influence? How do I play a small part or a big part in making the world a better place? 2020 is still going and we don't know what it's going to keep on looking like, but we know this. We have one we can cry to for help. There's an oxygen mask we can put on and keep on investing in. There is a God we can call on and pray to. There are people that we can surround and serve. And there's a way to keep on showing up. Lots of love to you in these days. Take care.
Wow, thank you, Joe, for that inspiring message of hope. And I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us for this very special event. Thank you for holding New Life up in prayer and for being a part of what we do every single day at New Life. And before we end this evening, I just want to close us out in prayer, so please join me. Father God, we are just so grateful for you. We're thankful that you are the author of hope. God, you give us hope amidst all the crazy circumstances of our life. Lord, thank you for the amazing testimonies that we have heard. God, thank you that you walk with us every single day, God. And I pray for each and every woman listening, God, that you would bless her abundantly, Lord, that you would inspire her to take that next step, whatever that is like for her in her life. And God, we just thank you for the work that you're doing at New Life. God, I pray for your abundant blessing. In Jesus' name, amen. So thank you again for joining us. We're so grateful. And again, mark your calendars for next August 9th in Rochester and August 10th in Minneapolis for our next women's event featuring Annie F. Downs.